listening to A Scary State, and this week we're talking about Massachusetts. So, Lauren?
Yes, Kenzie.
Let's get scary.
Getting scary again.
We're going to start with, right off the bat, say Massachusetts wrong, giving everyone a heads up who lives there that everything else will also be said wrong from here on out.
And it will be said wrong because you don't spell things the way that they should be spelled.
Correct. Or you have words that are really, 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 really long.
Yes. So it's not our fault. Come to Virginia and try to pronounce some of our words. Gloucester.
But don't they have something like that up there?
But they pronounce it differently and spell it differently.
Oh.
They pronounce it Gloucester. They pronounce it Gloucester. We pronounce it Gloucester. And then Fauquier County.
Oh, yeah, that.
Try to spell Fauquier. You won't spell it right.
Mm-mm.
Or Norfolk. I can't even say it. So see, come to Virginia.
Yeah, exactly. Come to Nova. We have a bunch of street names that are hard.
Yeah.
Like the street I grew up on.
Which one?
Glenbourne.
Oh, yeah. I grew up on, I'm not even going to say mine because I still live there. Well, my parents still live there.
Yeah, yours is long and I definitely can't spell.
Right. So, we don't want to hear it.
I can spell the second word.
Thank you. That was the easy one. Trail, drive, street, avenue.
Yeah.
All of those are fine.
All of those are fine.
All right. So, we'll just get into Massachusetts.
Yeah, because for us, we just recorded Ohio.
So we don't have anything to talk about.
So for you all, it has been a week since you heard our lovely voices.
But for us, it's only been a couple minutes.
Exactly. So nothing new has happened, and Lauren hasn't gone on her vacation yet, so...
I know. So I'll be able to talk about it when I get back.
She's leaving me.
I know.
For like a week and a half.
I know. It's like 10 days.
Before you ask why I'm not going on a family vacation, because I'm sure some of you are very confused by that.
I know.
It's because I am waiting for that master's money to kick in,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm going to start going when there's little Laurens and little Joes running around.
But don't worry, we don't have any little Laurens or little Joes planned yet.
Well,
I don't want people to think I'm pregnant when I'm not.
True.
Right.
But I'm just,
when the time comes.
Yeah, that's when I'm going to go.
Yeah.
Auntie Ken's will be there all the time.
And then we'll have better time to find a big old house for it. Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. All right, Massachusetts.
And I want to go here, where we're about to talk about.
Most visitors to Nantucket, the crescent-shaped island 30 miles south of Cape Cod, don't venture far from the quaint cobblestone streets of town or the swimming beaches along its southern coast, but make time for the island's less trodden... I know, there's like a gnat or something.
It's like Landon.
I mean, did you see me freak out before we started?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why.
On my nose. Space.
It's getting a little bit too cozy.
Okay.
What? Oh no! Mackenzie lost one of the sides of her nose ring. A ball for her nose ring.
I don't want it to fall out because if it does, it'll close and I can never get it done again because I will not be doing this twice.
Yeah, just twist it how you have it so that the side that has the ball is up. Yeah. Well, keep an eye out.
Yeah.
Okay. But make time for the island's less trodden north shore, where slender fingers of sand are home to nesting shorebirds, sunbathing seals, a maritime oak forest, and the embattled Great Point Lighthouse. This is the Cascada Coatue.
Sorry, I didn't do the pronunciation for that one.
Wildlife refuge, and it's Nantucket's most serene, unspoiled place. To get there, rent a boat or ferry over to Coatue, the narrow strip of sand that shelters Nantucket Harbor, or borrow a Jeep and drive north along the beach. You'll need a permit to Great Point. I would want to do that one.
That would be fun.
You can picnic in the dunes, observe a large colony of gray seals, and explore the rebuilt lighthouse, which was toppled by a storm in 1984. I didn't know seals were in Massachusetts for some reason.
Definitely not what you think of, but I think it's like more looking like the seals that you see in the Arctic than the seals you see in like San Diego.
Interesting.
Because those would be sea lions anyway.
Right. Right. But still. Stay through sunset where the beach takes on a new mystery. There will be time for the t-shirt shops later. People started living in what's now called Massachusetts around 12,000 years ago when retreating glaciers uncovered the land. Some artifacts have been discovered in lakes and rivers created by melting glaciers. Thousands of years later, Native American tribes, including the Wampanoag, Mohegan, and Mohican, lived on the land.
Yeah, you did.
The Bay State has more than 1,500 miles of coastline, produce plenty of crops and seafood. Local farmers grow about 25% of the cranberries in the United States.
I wonder if that's where that commercial for
ocean breeze?
Ocean spray.
Maybe
if that's where they film it.
That would make sense. Boston's Freedom Trail is a painted line through the city that leads history buffs to 16 official revolutionary sites, including the Paul Revere House, where Revere lived at the time of his infamous midnight ride. Well, I guess infamous as well.
It's not infamous.
His famous midnight ride.
It's a good thing.
Yeah.
for us.
Right. So infamous for others.
It doesn't even say infamous.
I know, but I read infamous. And then I looked back at what you wrote and it's just famous. Boston Common was the first public park in America. Boston Light was first built in 1716, which predates the Revolutionary War. In the late 1600s, about 20 people died because they were accused of witchcraft in a series of hearings called the Salem Witch Trials.
In case you didn't know.
The Boston Athenaeum has a book bound in human skin. The book's author, a career criminal by the name of James Allen, requested that the book be bound in his own skin after he died.
Definitely going to cover that story in our next round of states when we talk about dark history.
Absolutely. Citizens of Massachusetts are officially known as Bay Staters because the state's coastline features several large bays: Buzzards Bay, Cape Cod Bay, Massachusetts Bay, and Ipswich Bay. A quarter of Bay Staters are of Irish descent, the largest ethnic group in the state and more than any other state. But I will say, my husband is from Massachusetts and has never known that they are called Bay Staters.
I said starters, so that might be why.
I mean, but he didn't even say like, oh, but well, I've heard Bay Staters.
That's true.
So, there are no national parks or UNESCO World Heritage Sites in Massachusetts. The state does, however, have 154 state parks, the sixth highest number of any U.S. state. The largest is Quabbin Reservoir State Park, which protects the largest inland body of water in the state, which is also Boston's main water source. Lake Shawbenagungamog in Massachusetts is known for having the largest place name in the U.S. and third largest in the world. It has like its full name is like 40-something letters.
And I think people should just be really proud that you tried.
Thank you.
And it was as damn close as you were going to get.
And I didn't say Webster Lake, which is what it's known as, because no one says it that way.
Lame.
Yeah. So it is a loose translation of the Algonquian word, which means English knifemen and Nipmuc Indians at the boundary of neutral fishing place.
That's why it's so
That's
long.
why it's so long. There's so much they have to put in there.
It's multiple words.
But I think for anything that we pronounce during this episode, we just need a good job, congratulations, because it's not going to be easy and we're going to try our hardest.
Yeah. And we always do.
We always do.
I have dyslexia, which means I can't read anyway. So
we should get even more of a gold star.
Yeah. And I will say that if I say an actual word wrong, I do clarify with Lauren. But if it comes to a town or person,
right,
we do the best we can.
Again, I'll just say Worcester, Massachusetts. There's 2 R's in there.
It's like Worcestershire sauce.
Right. Exactly. So you guys made it hard on everyone else, so you can't be mad.
Yeah. And we're not trying to do it to be insulting. We are trying.
We are.
And it's not our fault that apparently you inserted a bunch of letters that aren't said.
Right.
So
not our fault.
Mm-hmm.
Mackenzie, what do you have for Massachusetts?
It's short, but it's spooky.
Okay.
And it's interesting.
That's all that matters.
I love a good curse.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
Yeah, we really do, actually.
Yeah.
We had a whole October episode of just cursed things.
Exactly. So this story is just kind of a reminder that some things are just better left untouched.
Yeah.
So History.com shares some of the most well-known curses from around the world. You may have heard of King Tut's tomb, and the legend has it that there is this ancient curse associated with the mummies and tombs of the Egypt pharaohs. So this curse is said to cast upon anyone who disturbs the mummy of an ancient Egyptian, especially a pharaoh. So if anyone follows historical news, not like me, they are making progress on finding Cleopatra's tomb, which many believe was in the city of Alexandria, which is technically under the water.
Oh.
So
I really did not know that we did not find her tomb yet.
We realized that it wasn't where we thought it was going to be.
Okay.
And this woman who has been working on it for like 20 years, women power.
Oh, yeah.
Thinks she's like really close. And I'm like,
I know, it's like, that's really awesome. Like,
yeah.
Good for you spending all these years finding it. But
as someone,
there are curses. Let's just not.
As someone who loves history and loves finding out those facts that put puzzle pieces together.
Right.
I totally get it. But
maybe just see it and be like, look, there it is, but don't go into it. Because even, wasn't it King Tut who on his tomb, it said something about do not open this tomb? And then they were like, nice warning, let me open it.
Could be. But this curse doesn't differentiate between thieves and archaeologists. Doesn't care who the fuck you are.
Just don't do it.
Yeah. And it has claimed to cause bad luck, illness, and or death. So shortly after unearthing King Tut's tomb, esteemed archaeologist Howard Carter, his financial backer, Lord Carnarvon.
Okay.
Okay. Lord Carnarvon. That's not even what I said when
No, it's not.
Anyway, this Lord guy,
Mhm.
he's found dead.
Okay.
A mosquito bite on his face had become infected, leading to deadly blood poisoning.
Mm.
He would not be the only death, illness, or unlucky occurrence associated with this expedition. The Lord's half-brother also died from blood poisoning. Sir Archibald Douglas Reed died from a mysterious illness, and George J. Gould died from a fever following his visit to Egypt, among many others. Objects from the tomb were given as gifts to Carter's friends, Sir Bruce Ingram, whose house burned down not long after. And then after being rebuilt, the house flooded.
How does this relate to Massachusetts real quick?
I'm just going over some curses that are known. I'm setting
okay.
you guys up for like, oh, we're going to get into like this curse thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because that's it. We just need to fill some time. So, of course, there's also the curse of the Hope Diamond.
Yep.
In the in the 1660s, the French gem dealer Jean-Baptiste Tavernier purchased a large diamond of unknown origin during a trip to India. Yet by the 20th century, a myth had sprung up in the United States and Europe that Tavernier had stolen the diamond from the statue of a Hindu goddess. You can hear more about this curse in our first DC episode.
Yes, you can.
And of course, we have to talk about the curse of Tippecanoe.
Of course.
In the mid-20th century, U.S. media began to note a pattern in presidential deaths. Starting with William Henry Harris and ending with John F. Kennedy, every 20 years, the country elected a president who would die in office.
Oh.
Harrison, the first president to die in office, was elected in 1840. The other presidents who died in office include Abraham Lincoln, elected in 1860, and obviously 1864. James A. Garfield, elected in 1880. William McKinley, elected in 1900. Warren G. Harding, elected in 1920. Franklin D. Roosevelt, elected in 1940. And JFK, elected in 1960.
Do we not have any in 1990 or 1980 or 2000?
Reagan could have been close. There was assassination attempt.
And then we didn't have any in 2020.
There was assassination attempt.
That is true.
But none of, like, there's other presidents. But yeah, no, after 1960, it stops.
Interesting.
Yeah. Because, 1980, I think, would have been Reagan.
Mm.
And then 2000 would have been Bush. He got a shoe thrown at him.
Okay, close.
I think, things became a little bit more like...
Secure.
Yeah. Secure. And a lot of these people, not a lot of them, but some of them died from illness, not from being assassinated.
Mm-hmm.
The only president between Harrison and JFK to fall outside this pattern is Zachary Taylor, who was elected in 1848 and died in 1850. He was like president for 2.5 seconds.
Oh, poor guy.
Like literally. In the 1930s, Ripley's Believe It or Not claimed that the pattern was due to a curse Shawnee Chief
Tippecanoe
Tecumseh placed on Harrison and future presidents that after Harrison's troops defeated Tecumseh at the Battle of Tippecanoe in 1811. Tecumseh died 2 years later in another battle against Harrison's troops. This story likely originated with non-Native Americans and bears a similarity to other curses in U.S. books and movies about disturbing Native burial grounds.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still cool to think that, like, because again, I'm like, well,
right.
God, we talked about at this orientation for work, and like, obviously they do like the whole diversity training, that kind of thing. I forget what the whole thing is called. But we were discussing images that you see in media and throughout history. And when they show, like, I think it's the battle, either Broken Knee, Little Bighorn, one of those two.
One of those. Mm-hmm.
And it looks like, what's his name's, Custard's men are the victims here, having died in this battle. Mm-hmm. But it's like, they were just defending their land like anyone would do. And yet we have painted this picture of like, they were savages because they just didn't let us take over.
I know.
Which I'm like, that is such a crazy fucking notion that that's what your mind is going to.
Right.
Anywho, so there's the supposed curse of Tippecanoe, which maybe isn't a thing anymore. Although it might need to come back for some people. Sorry. Not sorry, though. There are a lot of superstitions in the world of theater.
Oh, yes, there are.
It's bad luck to wish actors good luck. Mm-hmm. Hence the reason why they tell people to break a leg.
Yep.
It's also bad luck to say the word Macbeth in a theater, except during the performance of the Shakespeare play.
Right. When we were in the drama, we were never allowed to say it. We had to say Macbeth instead to not say Macbeth.
Yes. Supposedly, this is because tragedy has historically befallen productions of the play. And History.com goes into actual logical reasons for it, but I'm like, nope, that's not fun.
That's
It's
not fun
curse.
enough at all. What was a logical reason?
It was basically like this, it came about through fabrication of things. And it started off with someone was performing Macbeth, and the person who was Lady Macbeth had died after playing the role. And so in the 400 some odd years this play has been around, anytime that there's an accident, a death, or something bad that happens, it's really spotlighted in the media because like, oh, the curse, when none of the other ones, because supposedly they're not part of a curse.
Oh.
So it's like, because it's highlighted, it makes it seem like there's more than others when really there's
interesting.
not, psychology.
Obviously, yes, that thing.
So we go all around the world to bring you to Boston Harbor.
The harbor. Boston Harbor.
So we have a ship called the Maritana. And as it neared Boston Harbor after its long journey from Liverpool, England, with a rich cargo of coal, wool, potash, iron, and steel, and more than 24 passengers and crew, at well past midnight, November 3rd, 1861, and Captain G.W. Williams was in command, the fog was thick and the tide was high as they entered the bay. The ship had been navigating a disastrous southern easterly gale. From on board, a man on the lookout caught a glimpse of Boston light through the storm, a sign of welcome and voyage's end. But as soon as the light came into view ahead, so too did something else, the froth of waves lashing nearby rocks. So the lighthouse did not do its job. All hands were already on deck at the time, and orders came from the captain to tack the ship. I don't know what that means, but I'm assuming it means to do something to help it like not crash.
Right, like get ready.
Yeah. Before the vessel could change course, it crashed onto the jagged rocks about a mile from the lighthouse. For hours, the Maritana was pummeled by the unforgiving sea. The waves churned up by the storm were relentless, delivering incessant jabs as it sat stuck amidships. Like the middle of the ship was what was stuck on these rocks.
Okay. Yeah.
Eventually, the sturdy wooden vessel could no longer endure. Books about the shipwreck and several varying newspaper accounts from the time said a gap opened beneath William's feet as the ship split in half later in the morning. Look out for yourselves, he shouted to those on board. The demise of the Maritana in 1861 had been called one of the region's, quote, most violent shipwrecks, a catastrophic event that reportedly claimed the lives of 13 passengers and 11 crewmen. Every great ship, though, needs a figurehead, a decoration placed on its bow. And the Maritana was no exception. It was built in 1857, and the ship's owner, Sachet Morian II, took interest in an intricate carving of a woman. While noted by some for its beauty, the figurehead had a checkered past. The carving had been salvaged first from a commandeered French warship, and then later a supply ship built in Maine during the Civil War.
Although you never take things from other ships.
Yeah, and I think it was like the French warship, this one, and then the main one, based on timeline.
Okay.
So, because the one in Maine was built in 1862. But the figurehead's time on the Maritana was largely uneventful until the ship set sail from Liverpool in September of 1861 and sank just mere miles from its destination in November. Which, like, oh my God, that took 2 months to fucking get there.
I know. 2 months at sea. That just sounds so awful.
Terrible. So go with me on this. Don't worry about timing. Just pretend it all makes sense in your head.
Okay.
So the Caroline Eddy was a big merchant brig or brigantine built in Brewer, Maine in 1862 as a Union supply ship during the Civil War.
Okay.
Supposedly, the lady makes it onto there.
Okay.
Some say it was on before, and then regardless, you obviously know what's coming next.
Yeah.
So it departed from Fernanda Beach, Florida, with lumber cargo heading towards Philadelphia, Pennsylvania around 1880. Unbeknownst to the crew, the vessel was sailing directly into a hurricane. As weather worsened, a monstrous wave struck the ship shortly before midnight on the morning of August 30th. The devastating wave damaged the vessel and wrecked it. Stranded offshore, the ship likely broke apart at some point, and pieces of the hull would most likely have come ashore a short distance north of Matanzas Inlet, where the Crescent Beach wreck is located in Florida. So I think they've recently discovered, in the last few years, this shipwreck. So, like I said, I couldn't find my episode that would have explained in detail. But anyway, so it was on this ship, sunk.
Okay.
The Bercu, oh, that's French, was a 22-gun corvette of the French Navy. I'm assuming Corvette meant something boat
related
before it was a car.
Yep. But here's our French car ready for war.
Yes. Built to a design by Jacques Noël Seine and launched in 1794. On October 12th, 1800, why don't I say Bercu And you just keep track of how I say words. So I can say that it's hilarious going to edit. And I'm like, that's not what you said before.
It's a different word each time.
Yeah. Barcoo met the 28-gun American frigate Boston. At the time, neither vessel knew that the treaty that ended the quasi-war had already been signed. So I guess there was like, I don't know if it was the French and Indian War at the time, but
some war was ending, but they didn't get the word that it ended.
yes.
Gotcha.
In the ensuing engagement, Barcoo was badly damaged and lost 34 men and 28 wounded before she eventually struck her colors, which maybe means surrender?
I don't know. I've never heard that term before.
The Americans had 4 men killed, 3 mortally wounded, and 8 men wounded. So not as bad as the French.
Not as bad, but
Yeah. Barcoo had been dismantled, so Boston towed her as a prize to Boston.
Oh.
So the ship Boston towed her to Boston.
Oh, fitting.
During the voyage, prize master Lieutenant Robert Haswell rigged a jury mast and then sailed her on an impressive feat of seamanship. So I guess he figured out how to get the broken ship back.
Right.
The Americans captured her in 1800 but restored her to France that next year. The battle having been fought 2 weeks after the formal peace agreement, Barcoo was repaired by American expense for $32,839.54, which I know at that time was a lot of money.
Yeah.
On June 22nd, 1801, she was restituted to France and recommissioned under Lieutenant Michelin. He then sailed her from Boston to Port Louis, arriving on October 19th, 1801. So, goes from the French, salvaged somehow, gets on these other ships. These ships have wrecks.
Ugh.
It's somehow found and put on a ship again.
Stop putting it on ships.
You'd think. So it's now out in sea again.
Ugh.
From the Maritana.
I wouldn't want to be on it.
No. The New York Times reported at the time that, quote, not a vestige of the ship remained in regards to the Maritana. That is, except for its carved figurehead, which was later recovered by fishermen unscathed, the Globe reported in 1899.
No, leave it at sea.
Again, this is a reminder that some things just need to be left alone.
She wants to be out at sea. Stop bringing her in.
Correct. So at this point is when it really started to be cursed or alleged to be cursed.
Well, I don't think at this point, but okay.
The artifact passed from owner to owner until it eventually found a permanent home. Quote, she was now deemed unlucky and no ship's captain wanted her aboard, according to a blog post by the Bostonian Society, a nonprofit and primary steward of the Old State House and its collections. Quote, she was sold and placed in a shop on Lincoln's Wharf in Boston and became a curious attraction. The wharf promptly caught fire and burned.
God.
In 1908, the figurehead was gifted to the Bostonian Society, which, quote, put the unlucky lass on display inside the galleries of the Old State House.
They not learn.
It is said that a fire broke out in the
Oh
building
my God.
in 1921, starting near the carving. And again, it survived. In conclusion, the figurehead is no longer on display at the museum.
Good.
And a spokesman for the Bostonian Society said that it remains in their collections, just not on display.
No, put her out and see. She doesn't want to be here.
Yeah, I don't think they can bring themselves to get rid of her. So they just don't put her out.
No.
As if that somehow deters the curse.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, maybe she's just shy and doesn't like being displayed, which is why all those shipwrecks happen. And so now that she's comfy cozy in storage.
Maybe.
she's
Because
like,
you are
okay.
displayed when you're on the very front of the boat.
Yeah.
Okay. I just hope she's happy.
Well, so far it doesn't seem like anything else has happened. So I think she's chilled out.
Wild.
Yeah. So that is the cursed lady of Maritana.
I kind of like her.
Me too. Yeah, me too, for sure.
She did what she needed to do to be put me where I want to be.
It's just always crazy to hear stories like that where it's something was involved in some sort of catastrophe of some kind and it keeps surviving over and over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
And it's okay, at some point, even if you don't believe it's cursed, you got to be like, all right, don't know what's going on with you, but...
Right, let's take you away for a little bit and see what happens.
Yeah. So you can't go to the old society house or whatever that place was called and see her because she's not there.
Good.
But we will put a picture of her when she was there.
Is that cursed to see a picture?
I don't know. I've been looking at it all day, so I hope not.
Okay.
I'll let
because
you know.
there's some things, I don't want to say them because you're not supposed to. But if you see them, a picture, you have to thank the entity for letting you see a picture of it.
I think she's more of a structure type thing.
Okay.
Than
a picture type thing.
And
Okay.
a person. King Tut was individual people.
Right.
This was the structures she was put on or in were destroyed.
Okay.
Unfortunately, subsequently, people died.
Right.
But.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes me feel a little bit better.
Yeah. So, and I had already watched the TV episode about it, and I so far have been okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Except you lost your little nose ring.
Yeah, but comparatively to what I think would happen when you look at a cursed photo, I don't know if I would count that.
That's faring pretty well.
Yeah. So just trying to be reasonable here. So yeah, like I said, leave some things alone. And I know it was short, but like, that's some crazy shit.
Important messages to pass on.
Yeah. She just is trying to mind her own business, and people keep bringing her back. I don't know if she was originally on like the French ship and like carved into that, or if she was completely separate from those things and just put on it.
Well, either way, she said what she had to say, and now she's where she needs to be.
Yeah, I mean, we're lucky that the Statue of Liberty isn't cursed if it's coming from France.
Anything from France.
I mean,
bad. I'm French.
Well,
hey.
Hey, just kitty.
You better be. Punk.
What spooky tea you pouring, Lauren?
Okay, so I'm going to talk about something that took Massachusetts by storm. Well, not all of it. In 1939, something was happening in Provincetown. So, like I said, I got confirmation from some true massholes who told me that people call it P-Town.
Massholes?
Massholes. Joe and Richie.
A resident manasshole. Or massholes. I almost said manassholes.
Oh, those are from Manassas.
Yeah.
Those manassholes. So kids were running home crying and shaking, telling their parents of the monster that they had seen. Something that was big, growled, and was all in black. It would startle them as it came out of nowhere, only to take off in a flash. Their parents, just thinking it was a figment of their imaginations, would hug their kids and tell them that there was no such thing as monsters.
Here's my thing when it comes to kids and when they say stuff like that. Depending on how truly worked up they are, I might not necessarily believe like that is what you saw, but it's what their little minds can determine what it was.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I don't know what you saw. I'm hoping it's not as mystical as you're claiming. But like, I'd still be a little nervous.
Oh, I'm going to be believing my kids. You tell me you saw a ghost, tell me where you saw the ghost.
Yeah.
So it was October of 1939, and all of the summer crowd was out of P-Town. All that were remaining in Provincetown were the 4,500 people who stayed year-round, so the true residents. So it's a pretty small little town.
Yeah.
Because all of the tourists were gone, the streets were quieter than they had been just a month earlier and almost empty. Maria Costa found herself walking past Town Hall by herself one October night. It was freezing out and Costa was cold and shivering. She was nearly home when she passed a long row of hedges. This is when she heard a buzzing. She stopped, then all of a sudden, an inhumanly tall figure dressed in all black jumped out in front of her and growled. The figure stood at least 8 feet tall, had glowing blue eyes, big silver-pointed ears, and the ability to jump like a gazelle.
Blue eyes. That's different.
Maria took off screaming and ran straight to a nearby coffee shop. Inside, she told the patrons what she saw, prompting several men to run outside down Commercial Street looking for this figure, but they found nothing. Police came and took Maria's story and statement, though not taking it too seriously.
And what year was this again?
1939.
Okay, so we're still in 1939.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
We're going to stay around 1939.
Okay. I had to say, damn, they believed her fast.
No, yeah, 1939.
Now that makes sense.
But from that moment on and over the next few weeks, the police received several more reports from residents who reported being scared to death when a tall, beastly banshee appeared out of nowhere right in front of them as they were walking through town. The reports were coming in nearly daily. It started to garner the names Provincetown Phantom or the Devil of the Dunes, but the main name that stuck was the Black Flash, fitting as the figure had a long hooded black cape and a superhuman ability to run away before anyone could get a good look at it.
So through the hooded cape, you can see the eyes? So you can't really see the face, though?
It says it has like a black face. So like a dark face.
Yeah.
With the blue eyes coming through and like silver ears.
Oh?
Yeah.
But it has a hood.
But it has hood. The sightings were nonstop at this point, coming in from everywhere and everyone. There had been another story that came in from Katie Doss Passos. She wrote to a friend telling him about a mysterious prowler in her town who appears at windows after midnight, who is said to wear a black cape and jump over hedges. The Dos Passos housekeeper had cried, "He's a great leaper," after she saw it. Another was from Charles Farley, who woke up in his study to the sound of his wife screaming. He ran into the kitchen to find her frozen in place, staring out the window above the sink and very pale. He asked her what was wrong, and she told him that while she was doing the dishes, she saw a face looking in at her from outside. She described the face as being bone white and staring down at her, so we have white, black differences. She said the face was horrible, hateful. Charles, not really believing his wife but wanting to take away her fear, said that he would go outside to check it out. He stepped outside into the cold night with a flashlight and shotgun. The night was dark. There was no moon to illuminate the backyard. As he was looking around, he noticed, just on the woodline of the property, a tall and slightly bent figure. He called out one warning, but the creature didn't respond. It only started to advance towards the house. That is when Farley fired off a warning shot into the air, which prompted the creature to laugh, then start advancing faster. Mr. Farley then emptied his remaining bullets at the creature. The bullets had zero effect on it, though. It simply laughed and leapt away over the fence. There was another rumor that spread about a young boy who had been attacked. He was returning home from the library and ended up being chased by a figure in black, quote, spitting blue flames. He ran to the police station, but his pursuer had already vanished. Finally, with all of the sudden increase of calls, the police began to investigate. Sightings were increasing, but calls were also making it seem as if this creature was sort of a paranormal being. Such as, one call would come in from the West End that the Black Flash had just run through someone's yard on Tremont Street. Then just a minute later, another call would come in from the East End saying that it was now on Howland Street.
Well, if it's Flash, it means fast.
These streets are a mile and a half apart, but a 33-minute walk. No human could get from one street to the other in just a few seconds.
For sure.
For sure. With all of the descriptions compiled, the Black Flash, the Devil of the Dunes, was described as being impossibly tall, impossibly fast, human-like, dressed in all black with a black face, pointed ears, and silver eyes. So silver, blue eyes, differences. It also made a loud buzzing sound.
That's what's like.
I know.
It's like a big bug.
I know.
Yeah.
So like I said, the year was 1939. Provincetown was having a hard time in 1939, full of anxiety and general weirdness. They had just survived one of the deadliest weather events in modern history, the Great New England Hurricane. The storm sank ships, cracked homes, and claimed an estimated 700 lives.
Wow.
In January, a sea monster washed ashore near East End. It was 35 feet long and was really scaring people. But a zoologist from Harvard University took a look at the carcass and was able to identify the remains as a decomposing basking shark. But even this didn't help that overall feeling of uncertainty. Dog bites and cat scratches were randomly at an all-time high. People were arguing over a bylaw that prevented the killing of seagulls.
Sorry, clarification. When you say cat and dog bites, as in they were bitten or doing the biting?
They were doing the biting and scratching.
Okay.
And so reports of the biting and scratching were at an all-time high.
Got it.
Yep. And then there's this bylaw that prevented the killing of seagulls that was really working people up. And in September, an arsonist was setting fires around town. Schools were being burned down, houses were being set ablaze, families in the town were panicking. But no worries. 40-year-old Joseph Vieira was later caught for his crimes. There were also Nazi submarines just off the coast of Provincetown. Many of the citizens had family members in the Coast Guard and other branches of the military. They knew that, should America send out soldiers, their family members would be sent. And they, like most of America, could sense war on the horizon, raising tensions, because as we know, World War II was right there. It started in September of 1939, and our first kind of sighting of this thing was October 1939, so
yeah,
we're like right there. News of this Black Flash started to make its way around the world on the radio. People all over were hearing about a creature that was terrorizing a small New England town. But for those in Provincetown, it became more humorous and annoying with everything going on. I mean, a creature compared to war.
Yeah, you gotta decide what your priorities are.
Soon, people started to joke, probably in a way to make themselves feel better with all that's going on.
If you don't laugh, you'll cry, right?
Right. That the Black Flash wasn't a beast from hell, but rather a star sprinter or high jumper from the high school track team playing a prank.
Okay.
Or maybe even one of the leftover weirdos from the summer just looking for attention.
Okay.
Some kids even began going out looking for the so-called monster. Joey Gennard and his brothers, looking for an escape from everything that was happening around them, started a group that would search for the Devil of the Dunes, the Black Flash. The group quickly grew to 40 members, all kids, also needing a sort of escape from the horrors that were happening in the world.
I mean, that's not a terrible way to spend your time.
No, not at all. They eventually called themselves the Devil Hunters.
Nice.
On October 26, 1939, the Provincetown Advocate ran a front-page story titled, "Fall Brings Out the Devil of the Dunes, Hard Winter Certain," as cabin fever stories start.
Are there dunes nearby? Like sand dunes?
Yeah, it's Provincetown. It's like, I think it's like on the water.
Okay.
Devil of the Dunes.
There are also dunes like in landlocked states.
No, but Massachusetts is not a landlocked state.
I just didn't know if it was on the water.
I think it is. Oh yeah, here's water.
Yeah. It's in the water.
It's in the water. So this article said, quote, "It ain't unusual until cabin fever time that the balmy stories start. After folks have been penned up for far too long a time in too little space with just the same faces to look at every morning, afternoon, and evening, then the crazy yarns begin circulating. But winter seems to be shutting in early this year. Here it is only October and the Black Flash, aka Devil of the Dunes, has been prowling, scaring kids so that they won't go out at night and won't go to bed, grabbing women, jumping over 10-foot hedges with no problem at all. Chair springs on his feet is the explanation."
Chair springs?
I guess an explanation for why he can jump so high. So not only are the kids talking about it, but with the newspapers reporting it, the story is only growing. The police at first were annoyed and exasperated by all of the reports. Chief of Police Anthony Tarvers had a feeling that the creature wasn't a real thing. He was convinced it was just local kids playing a prank, especially with the first real report happening right before Halloween. And because this was the police chief's belief, many other officers started to think the same thing as well. But eventually, their opinions started to change as even more reports were rolling in. With each new report, the certainty that there was just kids fell a bit more. One of these encounters actually occurred between a team of cops and the Flash.
Ooh.
After the encounter, the cops were reluctant to believe Tarvers. They were convinced that the creature was actually something. But Tarvers was holding on to the belief that it was still kids, regardless of all of the arguments against it. So, the encounter...
him!
So the encounter that happened between the cops and the Flash. So 4 police officers had to respond to a call not long after the little boy was attacked from leaving the library. They were called to a local elementary school's playground one night after witnesses reported seeing a man or man-shaped figure prowling around. The school is where many of the officers' children attended.
Yeesh.
The police approached the playground with their flashlights drawn. As they were looking around the dark playground, they soon spotted a tall and lanky shadow moving across the edge of the yard. One of the officers demanded that the figure identify itself, but the figure creature ignored the command. This is when the shadow began to advance on the officers. All 4 officers immediately drew their service revolvers. They ordered the figure to halt, but the figure did not stop advancing. But the men hesitated in shooting. What if it really was just some kids playing a prank?
Oh, yeah.
What if Tarvers really was right? And what if it was kids behind the shadow after all? The shadow sensed their hesitation, laughed, and darted back into the playground.
This laughing.
It then crawled over the playground's tall fence and disappeared.
No!
Leaving the stunned police standing there, questioning what they had just witnessed. I know. It's the crawling. I can't do the crawling.
Can't.
People in town were having mixed thoughts about what this black flash was. One 90-year-old Provincetown native said that it was a peeping Tom.
90?
90-year-old. Just some kids who were getting the whole town worked up. Others really didn't know what it was. They just knew that they were facing something not human. Yet, Chief of Police Anthony Tarvers believed that, with everything going on, it was just some local men who were pushed into these pranks, donning capes and helmets and, quote, venting their own unease by trying to scare their neighbors.
Tarvin, a long prank.
I know.
Like,
Tarvers was quoted in the paper saying that as far as he was concerned, the Black Flash is dead and buried. Not meaning it literally was dead. But he reported that the Black Flash was just a group of 4 local teenagers playing a Halloween prank, like kids in a trench coat. One would get on the shoulders of another, cover themselves with the black cape.
Is this for the whole trench coat, like 3 kids in a trench
That's what I was thinking. With the flour sifter over their face for the silver ears. So the handle of the sifter was like the ears.
Wow, he sounds like he really knows a lot about how this costume can be put together.
He said that he had actually spoken to the boys responsible and their families and that all of the Black Flash nonsense was over.
What?
He never changed his stance that the Flash was just a prank, but he soon stepped down, being replaced by John Rigo, who had actually been at the incident at the playground. But regardless of what this chief of police said, children in the town were too afraid to go out trick-or-treating that year, so instead, the town threw a big costume party at Town Hall with games, plays, and a costume contest.
That's cute.
The winner of the costume contest and the $1 grand prize
Woohoo!
was Manuel Jason Jr., a 3-year-old. Guess what his costume was?
What?
The Black Flash.
Oh my God. We love a good sense of humor.
I know. Even though Tarver said that the Black Flash was buried and gone, that didn't stop those in the town from still being worried, scared that they would be out walking and would experience the beast. But one man, a pool shark named 8-Ball Eddie, was a very vocal non-believer. Shun the non-believer. Shun. Charlie the Unicorn.
Oh. I only ever watched that like once. So the only part I can do is the Candy Mountain part, and I'm pretty sure that's only because enough people said it.
Probably. So he would tell anyone who would listen that he hoped the Flash would come try to scare him. Eddie thought it was a man in a trench coat who got off by scaring locals, and he wanted to teach this man a lesson.
Question.
Yes.
So when you say it was like dead, so to speak, after he makes this statement of like he talked to the people responsible, did things stop?
No.
Okay.
No.
I didn't think so.
Eddie, trying to provoke the Flash, the devil of the dunes, would take long walks alone at night after the pool bars closed, just tempting the monster to come at him. On one such evening, he was walking home from the pool bars at night. Eddie noticed a shadow following slowly behind him. Eddie was a hustler, so he knew that this shadow was just another pool player, someone mad about a pool game and wanted to confront Eddie about it. So he stopped, turned around, and was ready to confront this person. But what he saw startled him. Eddie was face to stomach with the devil of the dunes. Stomach because it's so big. Before Eddie could even make so much as a sound, the devil slapped him hard across the face. Again and again, Eddie was slapped. The only noise from the creature was his buzzy laugh. Eddie was somehow able to escape and get away, never looking back. He never mocked the creature again after that, and word of his encounter quickly spread throughout the town, and his attack was believed. Not only was Eddie known as the tough guy, but the bruises on his face and his not wanting to talk about the creature only made it more believable.
I mean, you'd have to find someone else to smack yourself that hard to
Right.
like make it up, and not two people can't keep a secret.
And he's not the kind of person who would ever be like, oh, I let someone hit me. Like,
Right. And I don't think you can hit yourself that hard.
I don't think you can either.
I mean, like, I don't know. I feel like when it comes to reactions to things, it's like if you're going to try to drown yourself, like you can't just like sink under the water. Like
Right.
your body is going to.
Your body fights to keep you alive.
Right. Like that self-preservation.
That's why when I was a camp counselor, there would be kids and they're like, well, I'm going to hold my breath until I pass out. And I said, okay.
Yeah.
And I was like, go for it. Because it's like, or they're going to like try to choke themselves. I said, go for it because your body will pass out first
Mhm.
and then you'll start breathing again.
Yep.
So go for it.
Yeah.
And then they would look at me all mad and walk away. The Devil of the Dunes had now upgraded to physical attacks. It seemed that as the war ramped up, so did sightings of the devil. But as the war started to come to a close, so did sightings of the devil.
Mhm.
Until one foggy day in December of 1945. So we know that the war had like just ended
Yeah.
in 1945. So remember our friend Joey Gennard, the one who started the devil hunting group?
Yes.
Joey had been interested in the stories of the Devil of the Dunes. After every new attack, he would document the story. He had notebooks full of stories, newspaper clippings, everything surrounding the story of the monster. So when tales and reports of sightings slowed down, Joey was aware. He was starting to breathe a sigh of relief. He was outside with his brothers on this particular foggy December day. It was daytime and the sightings had diminished. So had Joey's fears of the creature. That is until the day that Joey was outside. As he was playing with his brothers, he ended up just glancing around his yard. That is when, across his yard at the edge, Joey spotted the devil and he froze. Unable to break eye contact with the terrifying creature that he had heard so much about. It was slowly moving towards the brothers, hunched over, walking slowly and quietly. When notice had been spotted by the brothers, it dropped to all fours
No.
and sprinted towards them.
No. Oh my God.
Like, no thanks.
Oh my God.
I've got to go.
Oh.
Finally breaking from the paralyzing fear he was feeling, Joey was able to drag his siblings into their home and slam the door, just moments ahead of the creature. He had his brothers immediately run around the entire house, locking and securing every single window and door.
This is like my bad dream. Getting into the house and making sure all the doors are locked, except I have no siblings.
This is when they started to hear the creature.
No.
It was somehow attacking multiple entries at once. Joey told the other siblings to hide. While they were hiding, Joey went to the kitchen. This house has a kitchen. Turned on the stove and began to boil a pot of water. He crept upstairs with the boiling water. He looked through a window and spotted the creature. With fear and adrenaline coursing through him, Joey yanked the window open and poured the boiling water down on the devil.
Fast thinking.
When the water made contact, the creature screeched an inhuman and ungodly screech and crawled away into the fog. After that moment, there were no more documented sightings of the devil in P-Town. The terror had finally ended. Overall,
Joey said, fuck around and find out.
right. Overall, the devil, the Black Flash, whatever you want to call it, tormented the streets of P-Town from 1939 to 1945. The story about the Black Flash sounds similar to another well-known urban legend, the legend of Spring-Heeled Jack. He was from Victorian England. He also wore a black cape and had glowing blue eyes, but Spring-Heeled Jack was able to spit fire and could leap great heights. Though we did have the story of the kid saying he spit blue fire.
Mm-hmm.
He also sounds similar to Perok, the Springman of Prague. So just like the Flash, Perok was first spotted in 1939, with his last sighting in 1945. Perok was said to haunt Czechoslovakia. Yes, why can't I say it? Czechoslovakia. During the Nazi occupation, leaping impossible heights, startling and slashing Prague residents with razor blades at night. Then in Mattoon, Illinois, the Mad Gasser was running amok in 1944, attacking residents with chemicals over a 2-week period, which I covered in our last Illinois episode. So the similarities between Jack and the Black Flash caught the attention of Theo Paijmans, a researcher and writer from the Netherlands who specializes in anomalous phenomenon and who has studied the stories of Spring-Heeled Jack and the Black Flash for years. He knows the similarities but believed that maybe some of the features of Jack were added onto the features of the Black Flash. In 2007, he wrote an essay in the anomaly research journal Intermediate States talking about what he found in his research of the two. He wrote, quote, I found the original accounts in the Provincetown Advocate, and with the help of these accounts, I was able to reconstruct a clear timeline and to throw out a lot of the stuff that had grown into the Black Flash over the years, but was clearly fabrication, says Podgman via emails from his home in Holland. One of these inaccuracies was the timeline. The Black Flash did not strike between 1938 and 1945, as is often alleged, but only for a few weeks in 1939. Since the publication of my article on the Black Flash in 2007, no new important materials came to light. Hence, my article has become the point of reference for those interested in the capers of the Black Flash. This is not to say that everything is told. There still is one mystery to be cleared up after all these years. Who was or were the Black Flash?
So where did all these other accounts come from if they're not true?
I don't know. Just people making the accounts.
So he decided that as he looked through this,
that it was only a 2-week period in 1939, not between 1938, 39, and 45.
Meaning those came from like the internet saying that, or the ones that were in the newspaper during those times weren't true?
I'm not sure.
If it's the first one, okay, I get that because clearly someone made it up. But if it's the second one, I'm like, how do you know they're not true?
Yeah, I don't know. So pretty much what he is saying is that, yes, there have been embellishments, but at the end of the day, there was a Black Flash creature. We don't know who or what it was. So there was something.
Sure.
So, of course, we have what Chief Tavers was saying about like possible explanations, that this creature was just a few kids pulling a large Halloween prank. One name that circulated was John Williams, who was a fast kid and a weightlifter, but Williams was a sailor and was often out at sea when the Flash appeared in P-Town. The main consensus...
So they thought.
He's in the military. They have documentation.
Oh.
The main consensus here was that it was 4 locals all playing a hoax. One boy sat on the shoulders of another. They wore a long cape, flour sifter over the face.
I'm telling you, there's too many people involved. Someone is not going to be able to keep a secret.
Right. The device's handle is being used as the long silver ears. Another explanation is that it was just a person, but a creepy person. Others wanted to say that it was, quote, a gay tourist who had stayed past the high season and was living in a shack hidden in the dunes, saying it was someone in drag who was just hanging out.
Okay, well, we know it's not that one.
Right. Some think it was the reincarnation of Spring-Heeled Jack. And another, which I think is the best, is that the Black Flash is an interdimensional entity.
That's what I was thinking.
That's my favorite.
And I was thinking, too, I was like, you know, a lot of people talk about seeing these kinds of things during times of...
I was just going to say, an interesting note is that the Black Flash terrorized P-Town during the same years that World War II was terrorizing the entire world. So 1939 to 1945.
I wonder if, like, when there's, like, a crack in our civilization, like, we're all fighting against each other, that it, like, weakens dimensional portals and they come in. That's where my mind went.
Many believe that this person or creature manifested from the terror or fear that the residents were feeling. Many had family members who were out fighting. The war was literally on their doorsteps, and the Black Flash creature came about during the time that tensions and fear were at an all-time high.
And maybe the human mind is stronger than we think, and if enough people think it,
it manifests it. But what you were saying with like kind of weakening the dimension, well, that's how like poltergeists and stuff happen, is when, and like evil entities and stuff come into a home where there's a lot of negative energy, because the negative energy is pulling all of this like negativity into it.
Yeah. Like, you know how there's all those stories about when you see certain ghosts, it's before like a big storm or something like that. Like, that's kind of where my mind went to, of like when people see these things.
Yeah, because obviously World War II was really bad.
Yeah.
So in the end, Chief Tarvers took the secret of who the Black Flash was to his grave, as he said that the town was too small and he didn't want to embarrass anyone or any of the families involved. But
would they be embarrassed though?
But who knows if that's actually true?
Well,
maybe they would be embarrassed because if it was a prank, it went way too far.
I mean, I guess.
But unfortunately, because of that, who or what the Black Flash was will forever remain a P-Town mystery.
I feel like if you're going to do a prank, you want some credit.
Right.
So.
But remember, if you look out into the New England night, there's no telling what might be looking back. I thought that was like kind of a fun one.
Yeah.
Because it's like this random thing and then it's just gone and it's never been reported again.
Yeah. And those ones are always interesting to me. I feel like they're almost a little bit more believable in a way.
Right.
Because it's not like, oh, someone from later on saw this and then all of a sudden started seeing it. It was like, it was just during this time and then it didn't come back.
And then after Joey poured boiling water on it, it was gone forever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So yeah, that's the Black Flash.
I'm like, each time you talked about it, the image in my head morphed slightly.
Into like, what's your image now?
Like, pretty much I ended up on like a Slender Man type figure.
Ooh,
with,
yeah.
Like lanky limbs. Like,
yeah, because it's tall and lanky.
Yeah, crawling on all fours, like a creepy little.
Oh, God, I hate, you know how much I hate the crawling.
Yes.
And so when it like crawled over the fence and then crawled at them, no.
Do you know it is actually kind of a little freaky thing to see that you don't realize is freaky until you're a teacher and you see it?
Kids crawling?
You know, the crab walking thing?
Yeah.
When you look at it for too long, it's fucking weird.
I don't like crab walking. I can't do it anymore either. There's like a workout exercise move where you're in the crab walk position and you have like one hand touch the opposite foot and
Absolutely
it like works
not.
your abs. I can't do it. My arms, like they bend in a way that like I cannot do it comfortably.
Well, yeah, and my problem too is when I have my hands bent that long, my fingers start to go numb.
Oh,
So,
yeah. So yeah, whenever we do that one, I have to like sit down and I like do it in a very exaggerated way so that I'm like, I'm still feeling the ab thing. I just can't hold myself up like that because my arms don't like it.
I'm like, why do you gotta get fancy with it? Just do some sit-ups.
Oh, I don't like sit-ups either.
Or do the bicycle thing. Because that
Oh,
does
that one's a
the-
good one too.
Yeah. But don't do crab ankle hand touch, whatever.
All right. The exercise today is crab ankle hand touch.
I mean, basically.
Pretty much.
Well, hopefully it never shows itself again.
Hopefully. Unless World War III, I guess we'll see. I
Oh,
hate
boy.
it. I hate it. I know. I hate it. I said it and I didn't like it.
Well, on that note,
I guess we'll just end it here. Stay scary.
and please stay safe.